In this video, I'll be installing a new switch panel from Diode Dynamics in the 5th Gen Forerunner. I'll be using a custom auxiliary tray I designed myself specifically for the D-switch. I'll go over how to mount it, how to wire it, and then we'll take a dive into the app which makes this switch panel a true star. Hey guys, Anthony with AZ Overland. Today we're going to be installing the D-switch switch panel from Diode Dynamics onto an auxiliary tray that I designed specifically for 5th Gen Forerunners. Now this tray will accommodate both the D-switch and the Auxbeam switch panels. The Auxbeam model number will be the BA80 with the silver label. I did a separate video on that one. So let's take a look at how the D-switch installs onto this tray and into the Forerunner. Remove the cover from the control box, and then you'll notice that on the tray there are only 2 bolt holes that line up perfectly with the D-switch. Once we have the control box all lined up from the hardware packet included with the kit, we're going to use 2 of the small Phillips head screws, and there are also 2 nuts that are included. Spin those nuts on just tight enough where we still allow a little bit of movement with the control box. Using a Phillips head screwdriver, we're going to go ahead and tighten those bolts up from the top of the tray to snug down the control box. Now that we have the control box for the D-switch mounted up on the auxiliary tray, we'll mount that tray up into the Forerunner. We're going to be utilizing 2 holes on the inner fender here, and then 2 holes located down here that are already pre-threaded from the factory. If you have a later model 5th Gen Forerunner, 2020 to 2024, you might have a little fuse box right here. That will need to be relocated to the front towards the firewall where there's another threaded hole. And you can use this bracket. So we'll take one of the bolts. And we'll just start that by hand. And then I like to do the 2 screws down low. I'm using the long shaft screwdriver. It makes it a lot easier. I also put a little butyl on the tip. That's that sticky stuff I was talking about. I've used it in several of my videos. The reason why is I can just simply put the screw right onto the screwdriver and it holds. Butyl should be a part of every garage. I used it when I did auto body for many years. Then you're just gonna guide the screw down, and we'll do the same for the second screw. Don't tighten anything yet, just start all the threads. This way you have maneuverability with the bracket. Okay, now the last bolt will go in. Now coming out of the control box are some wires. We have one with 2 connections, a red and a blue. These are going to go through the firewall and connect to the touch panel. Then you have a third one, which is a red one. That's actually going to go to the bundle of wires, if you saw my previous video, that are the trigger wires and sensor wire or ignition sense. Now, you have another harness. All this is an extension to allow this to be long enough to go through the firewall. So it connects only one way. You'll see a little Diode Dynamics D. Just match the D to the D on the blue and push together, and the same with the red. Now this is long enough to go through the firewall. There's 2 ways of doing this. I could have connected this to the touch panel and we could have fed it through from the cab through the firewall and up through this way, or I can feed this part through the firewall and pull it in through the cab. So either way is fine. The challenge is, if you can see the thickness of this, going through the firewall, that grommet that I showed you, might be a little difficult. So what we're going to do is, it's just a piece of tape and a loom. We're going to split this down. We're going to separate these 2 wires and feed one at a time through the grommet. Make sure you have something sharp and be very careful that you don't cut into those wires. Yes, I'll have a really sharp set of scissors. So now that I got the tape undone, I'm going to just carefully cut the sheathing away. And now you can see these wires separated. So I'll feed these in one at a time, and then I'll put the sheathing back up and retape it. Very simple. But it'll make your life a lot easier if you feed them one at a time. So coming down towards the firewall over the control box, I'll show you with a flashlight. Let me get that a little brighter. There we go. You can see where the factory harness is. There's actually a little gray thing. Let's see. Get that flashlight back on. Right there, that's a rubber grommet. I've already put a hole through there because I ran wires through there for the previous switch panel. So we're going to fish something from inside, and I'll show you the inside too. So going down and looking under, you can see right there. There's actually a tear in the rubber right now. So I'm going to fish something through that rubber, and I'm going to grab it on the firewall side. All right, you can see the wire right here. So I'll pull it up. I'm just going to hook it right to the harness and pull it through the firewall. All right, so I pulled this through on the first part. Here's the rest of it here. So this should give me enough slack. Here's the blue part that's folded back on the harness. And this should give me enough to go up to where I'm going to mount the touchscreen. I have the two wires that connect to the touchscreen ran through the firewall and waiting there. We'll connect that touchscreen shortly. First, I do have the wires ready for my lights that I have pre-wired to a previous switch panel. We're going to connect the wiring for the lights first before we connect the positive and negative. Now, in other videos I've showed this before, when you connect these wires, they're stranded wires. So, we have a tendency to just twist them to make them a little bit more solid and then inserting them into the circuits. However, I found that some people have had issues doing it that way because the strands can sometimes separate and not make good contact. So in order to avoid that, what I always use are ferrule connections, which are, here, I'll bring this forward, which are these right here. So I'm going to be using, just for demonstration, a 14 gauge on this stranded wire. Now these ferrule connections have a hole that the wire passes through, and then it's got a metal nose. So I'll insert the wire through, and then when I can see it coming through that nose, I'm going to take the crimpers that come with the kit, and it just crimps on to that nose. So shove the nose in, crimp it, and now you can see it squares it off. So when you insert it into the circuit, it makes a good connection, and it's super tight. So that's what I've already done with all my wires here. And we'll go ahead and insert them. So the first one I'm going to connect to circuit number 1. Now we have 8 circuits. We have 4 up to 15 amp circuits here. We have 4 up to 30 amp circuits here. I'm not going to use these right now. I'll focus on just these. And then we have 8 opportunities to put backlights in. I only have one light with a backlight, which I'll show you shortly. But first we'll connect the ditch lights. So you can see it put the 2 negatives and the 2 positives together for the 2 ditch lights. We'll just run these up and under. Through here. And then we'll connect them to button number 1. We're going to be using a small Phillips. So the first one is a negative. So we'll insert the black one in. Tighten it down. Always do a pull test to make sure. And then the next one will be for the positive on circuit 1. And you can feel it gripping the nose of that ferrule connector. That's what I like to feel. The next light I'm going to connect is my top light bar. And this one has it's not a backlight, it's more of a low beam. So this yellow wire is for the low beam right here. And then I have the positive and the negative. So we'll run these up and through that slot. If you run them through the slot, the cover will fit perfectly. So we'll run them through that slot. I'll go ahead and run the backlight on over here. And the backlight bar. The negative will go into number 2. That's my top light bar. This is my front light bar. We'll run that one up and through, and then we'll put that into circuit number 3. Now that I have all the lights connected, I'm going to connect the negative and positive. And there's an inline fuse here as well on the positive, so that inline fuse will be closest to the positive side on the battery. Here's a close-up of how I ran the negative and positive cables included with the kit. I ran the negative right to the inner fender there, which is the chassis ground, not to the battery, and the positive was connected directly to the battery. All right, we're in the cab now, and you can see down here is where I ran the wires through the firewall that's going to go up into the dash. And for the touch panel, I'm going to mount it here. It does block the vent partially if you use the bracket. Now you can tilt it to minimize that. However, I'm going to mount it flush. I think it actually is going to be a little bit more work to mount it flush, but I think I'm going to enjoy that more. So what we're going to do is pull this panel off, clipped in. So if you pull out, this will drop down. That's all I need. I don't need to remove this panel. Pull out and back. Okay. So this panel comes out. I don't need this removed, but you can unclip right here from the back and take these out if you want. And I can see where the wires are. I know my mark's going to be right around here. This is another must-have for every garage. You need to have step bits. It's a lot better than a regular drill bit. And you have to be careful behind here too, because there's a rib that runs there. So you're going to be very close to the rib. We'll feed one wire in first and then back it up with the other one. Hey, I'm going to run these up and under, and then we'll connect these. So the D and the D, you can't miss it. You hear a nice click. And same with these. Just line the D's up for diode dynamics, and then we can put it. Okay. So for this, we're just going to put the Velcro on the bottom part, and it's going to sit just like this. All right, before we do that, to ensure it sticks, we're going to do a little bit of alcohol and wipe down both surfaces. I used this Velcro before for my last switch panel, which worked really well. It's a heavy-duty Velcro. It comes in a kit with these pre-cut. But I am going to cut it, though. So we'll run it on the bottom here. And push this into place where we want it. So that's pretty solid. I'm happy with that. If I want to put something, a little adhesive right back there with the Velcro, I can. It's a little bit of movement, but I'm happy with that. I like the way it's situated. Automatically connect. Okay, we're connected now. Now, I forgot which ones. I got the ditch lights on one, I believe, but I can't remember. So I want to give you a brief idea of how this app works. And I did it on the previous video, and I'll do another video on it too when I connect those trigger wires. But button number 1, I believe, is my ditch light. So if I press button number 1, my ditch lights come on. Now I have it set for probe. So I'm going to actually turn this off. I'm going to show you how I can change that to a steady on. So if I go to the bottom right where it says settings, and then I go to the top where it says button and channel, I'll press that. And then I'll go to the cog or the gear of button 1. Okay, now these are all my selections, options that I can do for button 1. So as you see, I have it named on the top there. It's checked off. I'm using button 1. I can select an icon by clicking on the top, and then I'll open the screen of all the icons. So if I wanted to put in, I don't know where it's located right now, but let's say I wanted to put in trail lights, right? That'll be my icon. That's what I'm going to use. So you'll see that when I scroll backwards, that the icon has changed from button 1 to the actual icon. Now, if you scroll down a little bit further, if you look down a little further on the linked channels, I am on number 1, which means I am not going to control any other channel or any other button. Channels are buttons. I can actually link channel 2 and channel 3, my 2 bar lights, the upper and lower, to button number 1 or channel number 1, but I'm going to leave channel 1 just as it is. I'm going to leave it off of momentary, which means I'm going to leave it into an on-off only when pressed. And you can see what's checked here. These are my actions for the buttons or the channels. So right now I have it on turn signal flash B. If I want it on full on, just operate as regular, I can just click full on, which I just did. Now if I want to lock it in, I'll hit the top left back button, top left back button. By the way, you can see the trail icon on the gear now. And then I go to the bottom left, which is control. That pulls my buttons back up. Now if I hit my trail button or my button number 1, I'll be full on. All right, let me show you one other option on that one. Actually, let's go to button number 2. Button number 2 is my top light bar. And if I want to do just the backlight or the low beam, you'll see right in the center towards the top, it says BL, which is backlight. So let me press that one. And that's my running light or my low beam. Those will come on automatically when you press backlight if you have all your backlights connected. So let's program button number 2 for my top light. I'll go into settings, bottom right. On the top says button and channel. Click on that. We'll go to the cog on button number 2. And we'll leave it as named button number 2. You can see I have nothing linked. It's channel 2. If I scroll down, right now I have it only on 30% power. So you can actually keep them at lower powers to dim them, or I can put in, let's say, I want to do triple burst flash A, which is just under the full on. Now I'll lock that in by going top left back, bottom left control. And now my button number 2 will be a flash. If you have any issues with flashing lights, just be aware. Button number 2. That's a little annoying. I mean, you can do, I guess if you're in a show or if you needed help in an emergency situation, that would be useful. But let's change that. So if I go to the settings, bottom right, button and channel, button number 2, I'm just going to scroll down and I'm going to put it on full on, just like button number 1. I'm going to show you something really cool here now. If I go to top left, I locked it in, bottom left control. Let's program button number 4, which I have nothing connected to. Oops, I'm sorry. I'll just go to the bottom right settings, button channel, and button number 4. Now I have nothing connected to button number 4 in the wiring part of it. However, what I can do is it's checked as number channel 4, so I'm going to uncheck that. I am going to connect channel 1. I'm going to connect channel 2. I'm going to connect channel 3, which means my low bar, my high bar, and my ditch lights will all come on at the same time. And I want them to come on, let's just say full on. Let's just say 50% power, so I don't blind the camera. Now I'll lock that in. I will scroll back, bottom left control. And now when I hit button 4, the 2 ditch lights, the 2 light bars will come on. I have it on momentary. So I'll hold that down. I had it on momentary because I had a horn hooked to that one on the last demonstration. So once again, all lights come on at the same time. 50% power. If I wanted one to strobe, one to flash, and one to be on low power, I can do that as well. It's unlimited possibilities with the D switch, which is why I think this is the most amazing switch panel that's out currently. Also, it's super easy to connect. All right, so let's go back to settings, back to button channel. On number 4 I clicked on, so I'm just going to uncheck those and I'll go back. Let's go back to button 3, which we haven't tried yet, channel 3, and it is on 30% power. So let's just try that. That should be the bottom light bar. Let's go back, top left, and bottom left control. Now button number 3 with my bottom light bar at low power. So this, everything that you do in the app will translate immediately over to the touch panel that we mounted earlier. You could use either one. You can't program from the touch panel, you program from the app. The touch panel remembers everything, and you can operate either one. So thanks for sticking around, guys. In a later video, we are going to dive deeper into this app when we connect some of the trigger wires and the ignition sensor, as well as the night sensor wires, which is that blue one that I showed you earlier. So anyway, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I am an authorized Diode Dynamics dealer. I have the D-Switch available on the website right now. There may be holiday sales coming up, so keep an eye for that. And that bracket that I showed you earlier on how we mounted that control box of the D-Switch inside the 5th Gen 4Runner, that is also available on the website. I designed that myself, and it comes with all the hardware necessary to install. So please check that one out as well, and stay tuned for the next video on D-Switch. I also have a ton of new videos coming up. I just can't get to them fast enough, but a lot of the maintenance on the 4Runner, including transmission cooler, airbags, and all kinds of fun stuff. So thanks for sticking around, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget, life begins where the pavement ends.